memorial service. Across the United States today, which is the longest day of the year, there are services just like this, commemorating individuals who have died in a condition of homelessness. And we want to take the time today to commemorate those individuals. We have a number of speakers, and for those of you who don't have a blue program, Henry's handing them out. And the first person I want to ask to come up and speak is Joe Bischoff. Joe is the director of the Poverello here in Missoula and also sits on the Montana Council for Homelessness. Here you go, Joe.
Thank you, Pam. Good afternoon, and welcome to the Homeless Memorial Day. Serving on the Montana State Homeless Council has really provided me tremendous insight into not only the problems we have here in Missoula, but the problems we have statewide. And they're pretty severe in a lot of cities. And a lot of cities just would rather turn their head away and ignore the problem or bus individuals out of their communities to Missoula, expecting us to pick up where everybody else is unwilling to step in. And it's phenomenal the fact that the agencies here in Missoula are willing to step in and help those who really are in need. It's appropriate that it is held today, the day when we have the shortest daylight, and it's very similar to those who have passed away this year, because they're individuals who passed away well before their time, well before they ever should have. But just like the days following today, the daylight will get longer, and it is the hope of the Montana Homeless Council that in the near future, so will the lives of those who are most at risk. John F. Kennedy, who's kind of a hero of mine, but he was another individual who lived much too short a life, may have said it best in 1963 when he said, "Every American ought to have the right to be treated as he would wish to be treated, as one would wish his children to be treated, and this is not the case." He was speaking about the issue of race relations at the time, but I believe the words are just as true in regards to the homeless in our society. And I hope that there will come a day when a gathering such as this is no longer necessary, because we will have provided the proper housing and services for those who are in need in our society. There were some very special words that were written by Nelson Mandela a while back, and I would like us to kind of reflect on them and hopefully absorb them into ourselves and the kind of work that we all need to do to step forward to make things a little bit better here in our community for those who are in need. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small doesn't serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in every one of us. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday season and reflects on those who are in need, and please contribute and help out anywhere you can. I would next like to introduce Bill Carey, one of our county commissioners.
Thank you, Joe. I'd like to read a proclamation. Whereas adequate housing is essential for healthy individuals, families, and communities. Whereas the combination of soaring housing costs and a shortage of affordable rental and single-family housing stock has led to housing becoming increasingly inaccessible to a number of Missoula residents, many of whom are working full-time. Whereas untold numbers of homeless families and individuals are living with relatives and friends. Whereas each year, too many people die alone in the cold. And whereas December 21st, 2004 marks the 14th National Homeless Memorial Day. Now therefore we, the County Commissioners of the County of Missoula, do hereby proclaim December 21st, 2004 as Homeless Memorial Day in Missoula County. And we urge all citizens to learn more about the housing crisis facing our city and county, and to contribute in whatever way they can to the care and shelter of the homeless in our midst. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. I'm so thankful that the County Commissioners have participated in this and proclaimed this a special day now for the 4th year in a row. Thank you so much. One of the things that I'm aware of is that we don't always know what the face of homelessness is. We think of the man under the bridge, but we also don't remember that some of these people are women, some of them are children, some of them are families, some of them have some money and could afford a house, but they can't afford that, and food or clothing or medical care. And so we want to address those issues and remember those people in their wide range. They're educated. They're sometimes people with very high IQs, and some people with schizophrenia or substance abuse problems, and are trying to treat themselves with that substance abuse. One of the individuals I want to introduce you to right now is a person, when you meet him, does not have the face of an individual who was ever homeless. But let me assure you, he's benefited from the services available to the homeless in this community. I'd like to introduce to you Fred Saunders with his poem.
You know, it wasn't very long ago, 4 years or better, I found myself in a situation that spiraled me down into homelessness. I was scared, didn't know what to do, so I ran. I ended up here in Missoula, Montana. To make a long story short, by the grace of God and the help I received from folks such as yourself, I was able to find hope and put the pieces back together. This poem is called Tramp on the Tracks. There's a tramp on the tracks with a pack on his back, and he's wondering just where he will go. He's been so far from home since he started to roam. It's been longer than anyone knows. And the miles sure are hard through the old railroad yards, and nobody welcomes him in. So he goes town to town with his hopes all crushed down, while the hypocrites tell him he's sinned. Well, I do declare by the Spirit so fair, that soon when Christ comes from the sky, that the hobo's disgrace will be changed to first place, because they're all holy saints in disguise. So if you see anyone who looks like a bum, please don't pass him by with a frown. Take him in off the street, give him good food to eat, and a place for the night to lay down.
Fred's a special, special person. And the next person I want to introduce you to is Henry Graziani. I knew he would correct me. Who is the director of the Salvation Army here in Missoula and has much contact with the people we choose to serve in this community.
Thank you, Pam. It is good to be here today. You know, if you're like me, you were elated to see the snowfall this morning. Finally, snow. We can have a white Christmas now. And yet, I imagine that there are too many people in our community that don't share that same attitude. They don't share the same spirit as I do about, yay, there's joy in the air because there's snow on the ground. There's presents under the tree. There's food in the refrigerator. And there's a roof over our heads. Too many people in our community consider a garage. Too many people in our community consider their car, a neighbor's couch, a tent, a bench in a park, their home. And until each homeless person has a place to live, they will not share that joy that I have about Christmas. It is a great privilege to serve this community. I've been here about 3.5 years now. And one of the things I've found to be very unique about Missoula is that Missoula has a huge heart. And within this community is interwoven one common thread. And through each individual, through each agency, even through the government entities. And that common thread is concern for our fellow man. Concern for those that perhaps have fallen on hard times. Concern for those that have lost their jobs and can no longer afford their mortgage or their rent. Concern for those who have fallen into homelessness. It is indeed a privilege to be able to be just one person in one agency serving our homeless folks. I want to share with you a quote from the founder of the Salvation Army, William Booth. And he said this in his last public address in 1912, May 9th, and he said this: "While women weep as they do now, I'll fight. While little children go hungry as they do now, I'll fight. While men go to prison in and out, as they do now, I'll fight. While there is one drunkard left, while there is a poor lost girl in the streets, while there remains one dark soul without the light of God, I'll fight. I'll fight to the very end." And so this afternoon we join here together to remind ourselves, to energize ourselves, to fight on, to end homelessness, to provide affordable housing. And we together, not just you here today, but the agencies that serve the homeless population, the individuals, the businesses that serve the homeless population, let us fight as a community to help those less fortunate. Let us fight to help our homeless folks to secure a home so that they too, when the snow falls in December, can say, "Isn't it great to have snow, to have a white Christmas, and to have a roof over their heads, and ideally a couple presents under the tree, a little bit of food in the refrigerator." We are so blessed in this country. We are so blessed in this community. Yet we have so many that go without. Let us fight to the very end on behalf of our homeless folks. God bless you all, each one.
Thank you, Henry. And now I want to read the names of the homeless individuals who have died in this past year. One of the things that I want to point out is the average life expectancy of a man in Montana is 76 years of age. And to give you some perspective on that, I'm 56. The average age of the people who died here today is 57. Eight individuals died, 6 of which were younger than me. Homelessness kills. The first individual is Robert Charlo, born February 15, 1931. Nick Daly, born December 4th, 1945. Daniel DeGarmo, born December 11th, 1952. Richard Lewis, born January 9th, 1938. Colette Lint, otherwise known as Little Bit, born May 18th, 1955. Gary, otherwise known as Dean Moore, born May 14th, 1960. Jimmy Proffer, and I'm sorry to say I don't know when he was born. Unfortunately, we do know when he died. Thomas Stark, born August 6th, 1948. I'd like to lead you in a song called Amazing Grace. We all know it. I'd like you to sing with me. And as we sing, if you want to come forward, actually I'd ask you that before we sing. If anybody wants to come forward and say something about or toward this, I open the floor up to you at this time. I know you're all cold, but I think that's appropriate.
I'm Kat McKay. I'm a night staff at the POV. And I do know when Jimmy was born. He was born November 28th, 1959, and he would have been 45. I know because I knew him for 7 days. When he came to the POV, a brother or a friend brought him to us in urine-soaked clothes, unable to take care of him or unwilling, I'm not sure which. We gave him clean clothes and food and cared for him while he was unavailable or unable to care for himself for several days. I got to know him a little bit. The morning of October 20th, when I went to wake my residence, I found him and he had passed away. What I remember about that is that the room was filled with an amazing sense of peace. And I knew that Jimmy's spirit was gone, but that the peace that was left was for me, to know that he was in a better place, and that we had done all we could at the POV to love him for the short time that he was there. And I feel honored to have been a part of his journey, as short as it was. We see people come and go, and I really feel like I found a place in the world, and that's to love people that come, even for a short period of time, to love them just the way they are, because by the grace of God, it could be any one of us. So, I love you, Jimmy.
I'd like to speak a little, just shortly, about Colette. Colette was called Little Bit because she was just a little bit. She stood about this tall, and she was a sweetheart. Most of us saw her when she was drunk, most of the time, but she had a heart as big as the mountain, and she was sweet as anything. And she got sober, and was sober for a considerable length of time, actually, several months, and came in and said, "We haven't been drinking," she and her partner, "and we're doing really well. And if it weren't for God, we wouldn't make that happen. That wouldn't happen." She was just so open about who she was, both as an alcoholic and as a person who wanted to be free of that. I have no idea why she died. I don't know how she died. I just heard one day when I came back from vacation that she died. It was horrible. And then Mr. Lotz.
I'll try to do this. My name is Larry DeGarmo, and my brother was Daniel. And for most of his life, he was very productive. Most people don't know that he was a truck driver, and he loved vehicles, and he did a very good job of that. And then some injuries that he received. He could no longer do that, as well as most employment, and his life began to spiral down. And he has seven children, a stepson, and probably 7 grandchildren that, when we had his funeral, loved him and expressed that very much. He was always a sharing person. He put me to shame the way he would give of what he had to anybody that had a need. And so, in the last years of his life, as he became needy himself, and his health began to decline, and he was still not really having a home. It was hard to take. But I think one night he got tired, and God just said, "Come on home."
I'm going to lead us in Amazing Grace, and as we do, if you're going to go over to the Poverello with us, We're going to walk over to the Poverello. Snow's not too deep, so I suppose we can go across the grass. Pick up one of these luminaries and carry it with you over there. And we'll have refreshments there and can share more memories. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. Larry, do you want to start with picking up luminaries and starting over? 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fear relieved. How precious did that grace appear, the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. 'Tis grace has brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. The Lord has promised good to me. His word my hope secures. He will my shield and portion be, as long as life endures. Yes, when this flesh and heart shall fail, and mortal life shall cease, I shall possess within the veil a life of joy and peace. Thank you so much for coming. Join us at the Poverello.
part of this contract would go into, because I know they're much cheaper, their advertising rates at the Independent. I mean, do we have to give it all to one newspaper is my question? Or can we, because some things are only for the, well, anyway, that's the question. Do you have to give it all to one? Could we give some to the
Answer
other?
that, who's not gonna be? The answer is no, you don't have to give it all to one, but because the amount that we give to the Missoulian exceeds 25,000 is the reason that we have to do this. But just because you designate the Missoulian as the newspaper with the largest distribution does not preclude advertising in the Missoulian, or the Independent.
Well, the Independent has never been kind to me. I've always had things that are they're not very kind said, but
Come on,
I
man.
still would like you to, because I think it saves the taxpayers some money if there are things that could be spent at a lower rate, and that's maybe not everything, but something.
Scott, and Joe Williams.
Yeah, I applaud your sentiments, but with the Forest Service, we have to do this. By law, we're required to notice our things, legal notices, and you have to declare a newspaper that's going to reach the widest publication. And the Independent, while it may serve a purpose, I would be concerned that if we noticed up things in there that could be construed as trying to avoid open meeting noticing. I'd be real nervous about doing that.
Joe?
Well, I was going to say the same thing. I mean, I don't think using the Independent as well as the Missourian is not a bad idea. If our idea is to make sure that the public is well noticed, and that therefore leads to better public involvement and everything, I don't mind doing them both ways, which in a way is an additional cost, not less, because then we basically have to run the same ad in two places. I would worry from that same sort of number. I guess I would have to have a little clarification on the readership, estimated readership. I know the Independent is distributed free, so I don't know, they don't have subscribers, so I don't know how they get an idea of what they distribute. But I would worry about that same sort of thing. If we just did something in the Independent, would we reach the appropriate audience? Including Missoulian subscribers or people looking for those sorts of notices in that. And so I don't know, so therefore we come back, or we loop back to the point of, well, if the idea was to try to save the taxpayers money originally, do a good thing for them by limiting our advertisement. I don't know if we would be doing it the right way by just going to the Independent. I'd worry about that a bit. I don't know. I mean, maybe we could get away with the letter of law saying we noticed it to the public, we put it in the Independent, we saved some money by not putting it in the zoning.
Well, not everything is just a notice.
That's true. That's true.
Mr. Moyer? It depends upon what you put into the paper.
Right.
When I said it doesn't preclude using the Independent. You could not use the Independent for advertisement for bids. You could use them for advertisement of position openings and a variety of other things. But bids are the ones that the statute covers. Anything over 25,000 has to be in paper of the largest distribution.
And no doubt, I'm sorry to interrupt here again, but it would certainly be over $25,000 with the Missoulian, no matter what we decided.
So, can we support the administration's recommendation?
Yep.
Let's do that. Consent agenda. All right, Dr. Clark.
Thank you. We have with us here tonight again Ed Graff with Energy Education. Thanks for coming back, Ed. I didn't get to see you before the meeting. And last month we had a presentation by Ed, which was quite warmly received, and I recommended that you do some further work on that and look at that and discuss it further to see if you're interested in proceeding with that program or have other questions. Ed is here to answer them, and we're glad to have a discussion.
Not everybody at once. Come on, Scott.
Did anybody call anybody?
Boy, way to put me on the spot. No, I liked it from the get-go, so I didn't follow up on it. Carol?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that I fully support the proposal. I did not have time to make contacts for references, and that is something that I would like to do, and I just apologize, I had a really full month this month, but I would like to set a time perhaps where any board member that, if we set a time and could do it, make the calls, as they're long distance calls anyway, on a district phone, and just say, if you want to hear, maybe we could get on a speakerphone and call a couple of references.
Could the
But-
administration call?
I've contacted a friend of the superintendent in Wyoming that has this program, and a business director in Great Falls who has made a number of different contacts relative to this program. And we know that other districts are looking at the program as well. Talked to Darlene, you've been in Kalispell, right? They're looking at it also?
Yeah.
Yes, I've talked to Darlene Schlegel. I can't remember who I talked to about everything, but those 3 contacts I've made.
Remember her, she was one we wanted to hire and she turned us down.
And you still have no recommendation?
Well, I'm comfortable with this, but it's a program that does impact people, and so it's from a perspective of that I need to make sure I'm comfortable with the program. It says it's laid out there, but you need to realize the people impact that this program entails. We don't know what that impact is, but it is an impact on people because it concentrates on changing their behavior, and that's the reason for the energy manager. Is that the right name for that position?
Energy education.
Education, thank you. Energy education manager position, which is important for that. And that's the reason you have them, is to help people change their behavior. So I'm comfortable with the program. I think it's a good one. From what I've heard, it's a positive step for districts. And as you saw in the testimonial, I think, as Ed said last month, you can call anybody on that list. It's not a screened list. There are too many. And find that it's been a
Do you
positive.
envision any problems with our staff?
I don't think there'll be any, yeah, there'll be problems, Jim, in certain areas. That's why you have the education energy manager. He's going to go back to that person and say, remember what we need to do. So you'll have some of that. You'll have some resistance, but overall.
Do you think there's hidden costs? Is that what you're?
Oh, no. I don't think there are hidden costs. I think that's very well documented, that this is a savings. And if we implement the program well, we're going to save more than the cost of the program. I think Ed would echo that.
Joe?
I'd like to hear from the young man there, not sitting next to you.
Well, thank you very much.
About this, since it seems to involve work.
I think it's, initially when Jim and I looked at it, as I think a lot of, from an O&M perspective, you have a tendency to challenge it because what you're looking for is a comparison, an overview as to what the program entails. Once you get beyond that, really the issue is human management. It has absolutely nothing to do with, and some of the positive things that may come out of it are additional ideas and support. While we think we do a good job and we're open to a huge number of programs and issues. I think one of the best was the Montana Power display on Northwest Energy. Complete envelope documentation, a complete look from an outside resource geared at managing energy, and very open, and it qualified some of the issues that we're dealing with successfully. And so this side is really about teaching people how to manage energy and manage their daily occupation of a building and space. I see it more as like your own residential home type thing. I mean, as prices go up, you have a tendency to become much more aware of your surroundings. And in a home, it's on a much smaller, maybe more easily understood and managed perception. If you leave all your lights on in the house, if you don't turn your heat down, basically you're going to see a ratcheting up of that energy use. So the best I can indicate is that it's a whole different approach, as the presentation at the last FMO was basically founded on. So I just think that business director needs to manage this because it's more of a human resource type situation rather than an O&M. So just a plug for Dr. Clark when he's looking for